There's only one thing that is getting me through this month. One thing and one thing alone. Do you know what it is?
Is Final Fantasy VII Ever Crisis.
What? No. That's you.
No?
You're looking in the mirror too much.
No, I think that's you. You're really obsessed with getting all of the different cosmetics and playing through all the different stories. Like, you won't stop talking about it.
Do I know myself? Am I having amnesia?
Yeah.
Am I playing the game Amnesia?
Yeah.
What's going on?
That's an entirely different thing.
I don't know.
But yeah, I think it's Final Fantasy VII Ever Crisis.
So, like, what is it actually, though? Because you're wrong.
Oh. I was hoping you knew.
Fine, I guess I'll spill the beans. So we got this really cute Pokemon advent calendar. It's so different. It's such a different topic to talk about. But it's really fun. And I don't know. And then I also have been making little TikToks where we open every single one every day. Mm-hmm. And then I show which little Pokemon we got. It's really cute. And then it also has a lot of videos of our cats. So you should go on our TikTok. Shameless plug.
Shameless plug.
So fun. But it's so fun. And you got a Sylveon.
I did.
I got a Score Bunny.
And we put them in like crazy. A little Christmas village.
Yeah. At time of recording, you got a Munchlax.
I did get a Munchlax today.
Yeah.
He was very hungry. He had been away from food for a long time as he was trapped in that Advent prison.
Oh my gosh, yeah.
Upside down.
Oh my gosh, that's so funny. I didn't even think about this.
Yeah.
So when we got our Advent calendar, we opened up day 1. And I had watched other people's videos of this advent calendar, so I knew that day 1 was supposed to be a Caterpie.
Yeah.
And instead, it was a Charizard upside down. And I was like, that's day 24. I only know day 1 and day 24, and day 24 is a Charizard. So what's going on and why is he upside down? And yeah.
I just processed in this moment as we were recording this. There are not 25 days on this advent calendar.
I know, it's messed up, but it's also like kind of good because then that means that we get one each, and so
that's
not
true.
One of us
it's
opens.
Not skewed.
Well, yeah, but we won't have anything to open on Christmas. I'm sorry.
Atrocious.
I should have bought a better advent calendar.
No.
It's all my fault.
Yeah.
Well,
you're
looks
right.
like we're going to marital counseling.
No, we just need to sue Funko.
Oh, okay. Marital counseling or suing Funko.
Let's get litigious.
That was in my vows for sure.
Yeah.
Well,
year 3 is the year of litigation.
I hate that for us.
Cute.
Sounds expensive.
Just, fun marriage things.
Well.
So welcome back to ThoughtCast, a video game podcast. I'm John.
I'm Allie.
And today we don't talk about litigation with our guest.
Aw, we should have.
I mean, I feel like he would have had some really good thoughts on the matter. Instead, we talk about boring stuff like Persona and Final Fantasy and Pokemon and have a really, really unfortunately engaging conversation with him.
We talk about video games on the video game podcast?
Yeah, that's crazy.
Ew, gross. Play the music.
So this week, we are so excited to have bubbletea on the podcast. So, bubbletea, thank you so much for coming on. We really appreciate it.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate being invited.
Heck yeah.
So, for anyone who isn't familiar, can you tell us a little bit about you and kind of the videos you make on YouTube?
I'm most of my videos are on Persona, but I've made videos on other Megami Tensei games as well. Megami Tensei being the series that basically birthed Persona. I've made videos on Digital Devil Saga, Soul Hackers 2, and Shin Megami Tensei Nocturne Hardtype. I would like to cover more of the wider Megami Tensei franchise, since people seem to like those videos that I just mentioned as well. And I would like to talk about other games in general, like other outside of Mega 10, but that's probably not going to happen until sometime next year, because there's a lot of Persona hype going on right now, and I gotta capitalize on that.
Just a little bit. I mean, a game just came out, Persona 3 Reload coming. Like, there's a little bit going on.
Yeah.
And we're especially excited to have you on because I feel like us YouTube channels that talk about Persona and have Bubble in our names, we need to stick together.
Beautiful.
Oh, yeah. Birds of a feather flock together, as they say.
Oh, you know it.
Okay, wait, no, I do have to know. So, you have Bubble in your name. You are bubbletea. How did you decide on that name? What is the origin story?
All right, so I was 16, I think, and I was out at this hybrid camp out concert event, and one of the stands that was there, they were selling bubble tea, and I had never tried it, like, ever in my life at that point.
Mhm.
So I tried it. I loved it. Maybe a little too much, but in fact, other people seemed to enjoy it a lot too, because by the end of that week, like the end of that event, they were actually starting to run out of certain flavors. So like they were limiting people to just like a select few. Despite how much I enjoyed it, I didn't really drink it that often for a while actually. Like I would only drink it occasionally because there were not any boba places that were close to where I lived. This was back where I used to live. Where I'm living right now, there's a boba place like every few miles. So,
Sick.
Oh.
like in recent years, I've been drinking it like basically every week. So lucky me.
Yeah.
So basically, no other reason that other than like I just like the beverage.
Oh my gosh, what's your favorite flavor? What was the flavor that made your name bubble tea?
Oh man, that's a good question. What was the first flavor I went with? It was definitely a fruit flavor because I really like the fruit ones.
Mm.
I think the one I drank was strawberry, but my favorite flavor is probably, what do they call it? Winter melon? Yeah, that's
Ooh.
my favorite one.
I love that. What? I haven't had winter melon. That sounds good.
I feel like whenever I get boba, I always get lemon juice with tapioca pearls because I like lemon and I'm basic.
I'm a popping pearl girl. Like, ooh, that's a weird rhyme. But I like the popping pearls, and I like to get them either in the same flavor. Like I always get strawberry, like slush or something like that. Like it's
Yeah.
always strawberry milk tea, like whatever. And then I'll get the strawberry popping pearls, or sometimes I'll mix it up and get like peach.
Ooh.
I don't know. I just
Ooh.
really now I want boba.
Yeah. Yeah.
I should have anticipated this going into this conversation, but yeah. Here we are.
It's actually funny. I think I was probably gonna get one tomorrow as well.
There you go. Done.
I'll be quite honest, whenever I watch your videos, which honestly love all the videos on your channel. Well, I haven't watched every single one, but every one that I have watched.
Fake fan.
Really, yeah. But I do really enjoy. But whenever I see your name, I do get a bubble tea craving. Like, genuinely.
That's one of my brainwash tactics for indoctrinating you into my cult. Sorry, did I let that slip?
No, of course not. I didn't hear a thing.
That's not
Sir?
a good idea.
Keep that under the table.
Oh, yeah. Of course, we're cutting this bit. So, with that, that's how you got your name, but how did you get started with creating YouTube videos just in general?
Okay, so I started making videos during the wonderful year of 2020, if you remember that year. I'm sure all of us do.
Yeah.
Could never forget.
Yeah, never forgets.
Yeah.
I'm trying to think. I think it was like more towards like the middle of that year that I just kind of decided to make a video. 2020 was when Persona 5 Royal came out, so I probably just played that. But I had actually been playing Persona since 2017. Persona 3 was my first game.
Okay.
And after like sort of being involved with like discussion around the franchise for a while, I don't know how this is going to come off, but like after a while, discussion around this franchise just started to feel very monotonous and repetitive. Like everyone seemed to have the same opinions on everything. And people are entitled to their opinions. I'm not shaming them for that.
Oh,
Like hell,
definitely.
even a lot of my own opinions just align with the general fandom.
Yeah.
So, but in terms of like video content, that doesn't really make for very unique or interesting content. So
Mhm.
I sort of made it a point to only share quote unquote unique perspectives on the games that I talk about. Because like if I were to talk about like all of my Persona opinions, a lot of it would just be like the same kind of stuff you've probably heard already. I try to make the content interesting. Some might write this off as contrarianism.
Mhm.
That's not really accurate though, because like a lot of my opinions are just like kind of pretty milk toast cold take opinions. I just feel no need to talk about those unless I really have something new to add to the discussion. Otherwise, there's nothing really left to be said. Everyone else has said it. I see people complain about YouTubers of a certain genre or niche, like oh they're all the same, and that's not what I really want for myself.
No, definitely. And I feel like being able to kind of curate your content and say, I don't really feel passionate about this topic in particular because I've heard 10, 15, 20 other people say that already online, and just kind of really honing in on, I feel like this is a unique perspective that I bring to the table, and I want to put that out there so that people can see kind of both sides of the aisle instead of just, staying in kind of like this echo chamber.
Oh yeah, and that applies to like every fandom, not just Persona.
Oh, 100%. I think that it's so easy to stay in an echo chamber once you're in it because you kind of look for people who just like affirm your opinions online, like with Zelda, right? Like the Legend of Zelda Tears of the Kingdom
Uh-huh.
just came out. And I feel like there are two distinct camps, people who like Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom, and people who despise them. And they just kind of stay in their camps, occasionally clash, but never want to like reach across the aisle. Obviously, there are loads of people who do reach across that aisle, but you know what I mean?
Yeah, I know what you mean.
And so I feel like being able to create those videos where you have your takes and not putting anyone else's opinions down by any means, but just saying, this is where I'm at, this is my opinion, feel free to disagree with it. I think more of that should be encouraged, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a really good and level-headed take. I'm sure nobody will oppose it whatsoever.
No, it's the internet. Everyone's good and level headed.
Everyone loves touching grass and having good opinions.
Yeah. And only my opinions are good.
Very true.
But was there anything specific about Persona in particular that like specifically grabbed you and said, I want to have my opinions out there about this franchise or like Mega 10 in general?
I think it was when I started making videos more about stuff surrounding the games rather than the games themselves. The point where I started to think like, okay, like maybe I can go somewhere with this was when I started talking about stuff like, oh, the canonical names of the protagonists or like the UI design, persona prototypes, fan games. Like that's when I started to realize, okay, there's potential there. The point where I saw that potential come to fruition was when I made the bad endings video, because that video just blew up for no reason. Because like it's actually funny because that video I literally slapped together right after making the Persona 4 retrospective, which took way more work and time.
Mm-hmm.
But like that video was like kind of tanking when it first released. Like it was one of my worst performing videos at the time. It's doing much better now, but like at the time I was just sort of panicking and I'd like slapped together the bad endings video, and then that video blew up, and then a bunch of the views from that video trickled down to my other videos, and that's when the potential came to fruition. And I realized I don't I don't have to just talk about the games themselves. Like I can talk about stuff sort of surrounding the games. I think a really good recent example is like the videos that I made on like the silent protagonists and the one where I like looked at a bunch of surveys for Persona. You know, that's actually pretty fun, and like they're also kind of easier to make, so that just kind of works out, you know, for me and the audience, I guess.
So you just spoke a lot about game dev aspects, which was really, really cool. Like the UI and like silent protagonists and just things that are very common in game development. So was there anything that got you into thinking deeper about games or anything that inspired you to be more critical or think more about how they're made when you play them?
Oh yeah, I just really like video games. There was a point where I wanted to make them. You know, that dream is kind of like just on the back burner for now. Because I got other goals to pursue at the moment.
Yeah.
Mostly with the channel. I don't know. There's just something really interesting to me about like really digging into the nitty gritty of like game mechanics and how they like sort of fall into place. Like to thinking about like the intentional design of like what is the purpose of this? Why do they make it this way? Because like there almost always is a reason for that, whether it be for like from like a technical standpoint or maybe for like an artistic decision. When you look at games, at least look at games the way I do, there is like almost always some sort of intent at like almost everything that you look at.
For sure.
Or maybe that might just be like YouTube brain rot, because now that I think about it, like a lot of YouTube channels, like they deep dive in like a different direction. I do it with the game mechanics, and then like other channels might do it with like the story or the narrative, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
No, we talked to the developers behind Psychonauts 2. We talked to two of them, and James and Naoko. They're
Yeah.
cool. But when we were talking to them, John had a beef with James at one point,
Yeah.
and it was about the symbolism and meaning behind colors that were used in one specific level. And then he ended up looking into it, and James came back with information from the artists at Double Fine, and they were like, oh yeah, it was just that's how it worked, you know,
Yeah,
those
like-
were just the best colors.
Those
And
colors look really good together. And it's just like, I was kind of YouTube brain rotting, like trying to figure out this meaning behind it for a video.
yes,
And they were like, nope, nothing there. Like, it's blue and orange just look really good together.
those complementary colors
Yeah,
will get
that
ya.
like yeah, like there was an intent there. It just wasn't like a narrative intent.
Yeah, exactly. And so, like, it is intentional, and it is very intentional with everything. It's just sometimes, you know, as you start going down the rabbit hole, you start leading yourself further down the rabbit hole than than you need to go. Just like desperately
yeah.
like, clawing for something.
Yeah, but it's so fun to speculate, and
No,
it's so
true.
fun to watch other people speculate why certain game aspects are certain ways or why certain art aspects are different ways. I don't know. I think it's one of the coolest things, and it's something I really enjoy about YouTube.
Yeah, because I feel like sometimes meaning can be ascribed to like different things, even if it's, you know, not necessarily what the developers intended. If someone can have a positive takeaway or just find enjoyment from like that theory crafting lens or that analytical lens, I feel like that's really cool to see how people get so kind of passionate about something that you may have never thought about. Like, I really enjoyed your video on the silent protagonist, because it's like, that, you know, that's an interesting topic that I hadn't seen discussed a ton at that point.
Yeah, that type of topic usually just kind of goes in the direction of people saying, "Oh, I think they should have a talking protagonist," and I'm just like, "All right, I mean, that'd be cool, I guess.
Yeah.
It's actually funny because a lot of those types of ideas that like fans very commonly spout out on social media, like the talking protagonist and what else is there? Oh, we should have a game with an adult cast, you know. A lot
Mhm.
of those types of ideas I actually see in Soul Hackers 2. Soul Hackers 2 very much feels like a game where they just sort of implemented a lot of the ideas that fans wanted in a game.
Mhm.
It has a talking protagonist, a talking protagonist who is also a woman with an adult cast, and like it shares a lot of the aspects with Persona, but at least from what I've seen, like the general reception of that game is like kind of middling. Like people are just kind of on the game, and that just kind of goes to show that like a lot of the ideas that people think will make Megaten or Persona better, like don't actually make it better. Those are like kind of surface level, superficial things.
Yeah. And with Soul Hackers, because I'll be honest, I'm only about halfway through Soul Hackers right now. I was actually like playing it for the first time. Well, Soul Hackers 2. I was playing it for the first
Uh,
time as Tactica came out, and I put the brakes fully on Soul Hackers 2. And at least from where I'm at in the game, there's something about it that feels paint by numbers a little bit, in that the level design specifically just so profoundly doesn't capture me. You know, you can only look at so many blue cubes before
yeah.
you start glazing over. Like, I see merits in the game, and I see what they were trying to do, and I almost hope that that game was almost like a demo run just to, like, teach the... Ali, you were talking about this recently, how sometimes game developers will use other games as practice to, like, learn how to do specific mechanics or build certain kinds of levels or, like, write certain kinds of characters. And I really hope that Soul Hackers 2 was just like a trial run for something that they're trying to learn more about, or you know what I mean? Because I do think a lot of the aspects of that game, I haven't finished it, so I can't say for certain, but fall flat in some ways that like other games that Atlas have developed just don't for me, you know? Like the cast is
Oh, I
fine.
agree.
Like the cast is fine. I don't really have any gripes with the cast, but they also aren't the most memorable in the world, you know?
Yeah.
Like it's just
Mhm.
it's an experience, you know? Not a great one, not a bad one. It's one that's there. And that's kind of where I'm at with Soul Hackers too. Weird kind of idiosyncrasy of a game
Yeah. I could tell that you weren't as invested with that one.
cuz I dropped it.
Yeah, you dropped it immediately.
Well, that's a surefire sign.
Yeah, that telltale sign.
Yeah. I'll pick it up eventually.
Yeah. We said that with Tales of Arise, though.
Oh yeah. No. Have you played Tales of Arise?
I have not.
Same kind of thing. It's fine. People love it, you know.
Yeah.
But it's just not there. It gives me the same energy as a Soul Hackers too. Where it's like it's good. It's good enough. But I'm also like not chomping at the bit to complete it like I was with like Persona 5 Royal or, you know, other games like that. But you had mentioned, you know, being interested in, you know, making videos kind of in addition to the ones that you make about like Persona and Mega 10 and all that kind of stuff. I guess my question would be, do you ever, because this is something that I stopped making Persona videos for the better part of 2 years, because I got very burnt out of Persona, right? Specifically after making a Psychology of Adachi video. It just,
Oh man.
yeah, yeah, it was very taxing, and the comment section was very taxing, and I was like, I'm done
Oh.
for a little bit. Do you ever feel like burnout with like the franchise, or if not, like how do you stave off that burnout? You know what I mean?
Oh, yeah. Do I ever get burnout? Yeah, I do. I think, like, I actually talk about this sometimes with other people who make Persona videos, and, you know, they sort of feel the same thing where they're just kind of like, oh, I kind of want to make a video about something else, but then it's just like, it doesn't perform as well, and then they stress out over it for a bit, and then they kind of go back to Persona. So, my sort of solution to that was, like, having my second channel. It's just called bubbletea Plus. Name is still a work in progress. I might keep that, I might not. I do plan on diversifying the main channel, just bubbletea, with other games. But for now, I think I wanna wrap up the ideas I have planned for Persona before I do that. Bubble Tea Plus will probably be more about broader topics not pertaining to any one particular game or piece of media, while the main channel will just be like games.
So you mentioned playing other kinds of games and things like that. Is there a franchise that you love that you just feel doesn't get the attention that it probably deserves? Maybe one that you would make a video about, perhaps one day?
That is a tough question because the thing about me is that I sort of hyperfixate around like a handful of franchises and don't really branch out that much beyond those. Like there are a bunch of other series that I want to get into, but I just haven't yet. I've heard Xenoblade Chronicles is really good. I've heard Devil May Cry is really good, but I just like have not touched those yet. So I don't know. A franchise that I love that doesn't get enough attention.
It's totally cool if you don't have one because I'm a Nintendo
Yeah.
girly through and through. And so when people ask me like, what's one of your favorite games that you feel like doesn't get enough attention? I'm like, I don't know. I play everything basic. I am basic.
Yeah.
Hello, I'm basic.
Yeah.
Nice to meet you.
Yeah, yeah. I'm like I don't really have an answer to that. Like in terms of like games that don't get enough attention that I like, a good number of those games are just Mega 10, honestly. Like
Yeah.
Digital Devil Saga. Yeah, everyone listening to this right now, go play Digital Devil Saga 1 and 2. Please play both. Don't play the first one and then like skip out on the second one because way too many people do that. And it also doesn't make any sense because you need both games to get the complete story.
Yeah.
So I don't know. It just people are weird.
No, yes. I feel like, especially with games like that, which I'll be honest, after this, Digital Devil Saga, it's been on my list, but I should probably bump it up on my list a little bit.
Yeah.
Because, like, with franchises like that, where you know you need both parts to get the full story, like, I wonder if some people almost feel like, for me, it's like, okay, I know I will want to play these back to back, so I need to make sure that I have the time carved out. And with the constant release cycle, like, you know, I feel like there's always something new that's like pulling my attention away. Like, it took us forever. So you mentioned Xenoblade. We are very Xenoblade pilled people.
Oh, yeah.
Like, to a detrimental effect. Like, did we take PTO for Xenoblade?
I don't remember.
I think
we might have.
I think we did. But Xenoblade is one of those franchises where it's like, I don't know how well I can recommend it, because to get the entirety of the story, like, you need to play 1, 2, 3, and, like, all of the DLC. And it's like, duh, you know? Like, that's a lot to ask of someone. But with that said, Digital Devil Saga, that just is one of those titles where I'm like, it looks so good that I just need to pull the trigger on it.
Oh yeah, like I put off Digital Devil Saga for a while. Like when I played Nocturne for the first time, like I think that was like what 2018. I played Nocturne for the first time and then I look over at Digital Devil Saga. Like they kind of share some stuff in common in terms of gameplay and then like they're both made in the same engine and all that. Very close to each other in release date. So to me, it just kind of made sense. Like, oh, I should probably play Digital Devil Saga next. But then I just like I kept playing other stuff because I think Persona Q2 came out, and then what else? Persona 5 Royal, and then like Persona 4 Golden came out on PC, and then I just like kept putting it off. But like once you actually do get to playing DDS, like that seems to be a thing that everyone does. Like they put off DDS for a while, but then like they finally play it, and then they were just like, man, I really should have played this sooner. That's what I thought when I played it for the first time. Like, oh man, I really should have played this sooner. Like back when I originally intended to.
It's like your third eye opens and you can finally see. But with all of that, with all the channel stuff, is there anything that you kind of enjoy doing outside of the channel that kind of keeps you sane and keeps you kind of like creatively motivated to keep making videos?
Let's see. I like to go on long walks or jogs. Just Depends on my mood if I want to go for a walk or a jog, but like yeah, listen to some music while I'm doing it. Although admittedly a lot of the music I listen to is just Megaten music, so okay, moot point.
Yeah.
I I sometimes watch anime. I'm a pretty light watcher though, you know. I'm not like not like a huge anime person. Don't expect me to become an anime channel at any point.
Yeah.
Honestly, if you want to keep yourself sane, just consume non-Megaten content every now and then. Whether it be games or like just watching YouTube videos or whatever, it's just like when you make a certain type of content, try to consume stuff that is like not the same type of stuff that you make on your off time.
Hmm.
And most of my time is taken up by my day job, but like that's actually bad for my sanity. So
That's
uh,
fair.
yeah.
Something that I always like to ask people is if they have a random topic that they could give a 30-minute or, just whatever, a ridiculous amount of time spent presentation on with like no preparation. So, an example of that would be I'm going to throw John under the bus. He used to work in a ropes course.
Oh,
And
yeah.
so, something you would never expect from him is that he could tell you all about ropes courses and types of belays and like things to do. I don't even know what you do in a ropes course, but you could teach me in a presentation.
I had to build one. Did you know I had to build one?
Every day, he tells me something that confuses me endlessly, and I didn't know that he knew this information in his brain. But is there anything that no one would anticipate you just have a wealth of knowledge about?
Okay, so if we're talking like a presentation, it's like I can't present anything without prep. That's why all my videos are scripted. I tend to get pretty
Oh, same.
rambly if I don't at least leave notes for myself. Even right now, like John gave me like a sort of like a docket of like some of the topics that we were going to talk about, and I had to write notes for myself for some of these questions. I am not as articulate IRL as I am in my videos. So like a presentation without prep, probably not going to go well. But if you're just talking like a topic I could talk a really long time about, this is going to sound really nerdy, but
Ready.
Do it.
something that I could honestly talk like probably hours about is just sort of my personal philosophy of what makes a good turn-based JRPG. Like and like a large amount of it is rooted in just Final Fantasy IV. Like I think Final Fantasy IV just fundamentally has like all the things that I personally look for in a turn-based RPG.
Yes.
Uh,
Yes.
and just something I like about Final Fantasy IV and games like Final Fantasy IV is that like RPGs, they're very numbers based, but like there are just so many little factors to take into account outside of the numbers game. Like pieces of equipment having like hidden properties like resistances, and then like certain weapons they have less attack power, but they're like strong against certain creature types, like the Mage Masher. Like
Mhm.
really like you hit a mage type enemy with that shit, and it's like way better than any of like your higher attack gear that you
Yeah.
probably have at that point in the game for like most of the game actually. And when I see those types of things in other games, like Persona 3 for example, I see a lot of that. I just kind of gush about that type of stuff cuz I don't know. I feel like Final Fantasy IV is what really made me fall in love with the RPG genre, and then like it's only every so often that I'll ever find another RPG that kind of hits those right notes when it comes to like the character specking side of side of things, or like each character having like their own interesting type of role.
No, yeah, definitely. And you said Final Fantasy IV, and Ali can attest to this. Like, my eyes lit up. I love Final Fantasy IV.
Oh yeah, let's go.
Yeah,
Let's go.
it is such a profoundly like good game, like through and through. I I love a lot of the Final Fantasies, to be fair, but 4 in particular, from a gameplay perspective, like you're saying, but even just the ground that game broke narratively for the Final Fantasy franchise, and I think for JRPGs in general, just can't be understated enough. Like, it's not, looking back on it, it's not the most groundbreaking narrative, but it is a very well thought out, like, compelling narrative for the time that I would say still holds up to today.
Oh yeah, I totally agree. Cause like I've played both the 2D and 3D versions of the game, cause they're actually like the story is the same, but like gameplay wise they're actually quite different. Have you played both or just one or the other?
So I grew up with the DS version, so the 3D version, but I have retroactively gone back to play the 2D version. So I'm more familiar and have played the 3D version more, but the 2D I have since to experience how it was originally created, gone back to the 2D version.
Oh yeah, they're both great. Like they both have their merits.
Yeah.
Like between like the PSP version, like letting you like, because like in the original game you like your characters would just sort of like leave your party and like not come back. But in like the PSP version, like the game generously decides, okay, here are all the characters you've played with throughout the game. You can use whichever ones you want. And then like, and that's just for like the final stretch of the game. Then you have like the post game content, which like actually gives you more of a reason to use all the other characters, and that's pretty fucking awesome. And then you have the DS version, which has like a very interesting skill system, and you can just come up with really intuitive skill setups for characters. Like yeah, like you should have seen my Kane Highwind back in the day. Like I just made him an absolute powerhouse. Like jump, focus, darkness. He basically just like my boss destroyer.
King Kane.
Oh yeah.
Kane. In every iteration of Final Fantasy, Dragoons are my absolute favorite. You like Dragoons too, right, Allie?
Yeah, they're so cool. What the heck?
Like,
I am new to Final Fantasy.
Oh yeah.
But I
Yeah,
am already
we stand Dragoons here.
Yes, they're so cool. How many final? I've done 10, 16, and then we just did 7 remake.
yes.
And so I've only ever played 3 Final Fantasies, and that's all I needed to know that I need a Chocobo plush.
Yeah.
And Dragoons are the coolest. There you go. I'm a part of the fandom now. That's all it took.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. I actually have not played many of the newer Final Fantasy games. I've played 1 through 6, and I've also played 10 at the suggestion of Nom's Compendium. Really cool guy. Go check him out too.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. Like 10 is it's actually kind of wild. 10 is the newest Final Fantasy game that I've played. Because I'm not really into MMOs like what is it, 14?
Oh yeah.
And then like 16, I've seen videos of that game, and it just looks so drastically different from what I'm familiar with, and also just way more westernized. Like Final Fantasy has always been like kind of westernized compared to like some other JRPGs, but like 16 especially, like I see a lot of people compare it to Game of Thrones, which is like not even, I've never watched Game of Thrones, so like that comparison just kind of makes it feel even more foreign to me, and I'm just like, oh man, I don't think I'm quite ready for this.
Yeah, it is a very Western inspired. It's strange because it pulls from so many places, because at one moment you'll feel very like Witcher-esque, and then the combat's very Devil May Cry though, because they literally got the combat designer from the Devil May Cry series to do the action combat in this game. But the story itself, like the narrative itself, feels, at least to me, very Final Fantasy, with the summons, or I guess they're called icons in this game, and the crystals, and that being so embedded in the plot that it feels very Final Fantasy. But when you're like watching the cutscenes and doing the narrative, but when you're playing the game, you're like, there's some cognitive dissonance going on there.
That's so funny you say that, because I don't know, the whole game experience of 16 is so different from other Final Fantasies that now that we're going back to those, the earlier ones,
Yeah.
I am having a hard time understanding what Final Fantasy was before 16. So we just went through 7 Remake, and there's like jokey little chocobos and Kupo and, and like silly little guys and a lot of jokes and a lot of levity, and it's, I don't know, very humorous. Whereas in 16, about halfway through, you're like, wow, everything's really dark and grim, isn't it? Like all the time.
I'll never be happy again.
Like everyone's just dying. And like, it really does, to me, feel like Game of Thrones, but like minus, there's this one character named Tyrion Lannister, and he's very funny. If you took him out of the show and it was just everyone is bleak and sad the whole time.
Whoa. Gav.
Okay. Gav was funny. But okay, anyways, I'm digressing. 16 had very few moments of levity, whereas in 7 Remake, I had to watch people dance, and I was like, what am I playing?
Yeah.
What's going on? Why is there dancing?
It gets, like, depending on what game you're playing, it gets even goofier than that. Because, like, Final Fantasy IV is like, I was just talking about 4. 4 is, like, the first... Well, maybe not the first one to have, like, a serious narrative. Technically, Final Fantasy II was their first attempt at that. But 4 had, like, a kind of serious narrative with humorous moments. Like, literally, the game right after, Final Fantasy V, was a very back-to-the-basics type of game. It went back to the job class system, which, for, like, to its credit, I like the job class system in Final Fantasy V. It's definitely a lot better than, like, the 1 and 3, like, from a technical standpoint. The story is very basic Final Fantasy, like, go restore the crystals type beat, and, like, the characters are pretty one note. But it's still a pretty rad game, though. Like, definitely worth playing just for the gameplay. And then, like, after that, after Final Fantasy V, you get Final Fantasy VI, which is, like, this... I don't know how to describe how to describe the story of 6. It's just, like, you get this huge epic. 4 is my favorite Final Fantasy game, but 6 definitely has the best story and characters, at least out of the ones that I've played. So, yeah, Final Fantasy, tonally, it does jump a lot. So what you're experiencing is not unusual.
Yeah. Oh, okay, that's good at least.
I feel like even within 6, it jumps around, which I adore 6. I think it's one of the pinnacles of that era of JRPG, and just JRPGs in general. But even going from, there's some very, like, shockingly dark moments in that game, like, that are sometimes, like, dovetailed from very humorous interactions with, like, wacky gags with the sprite work. Like, when folks, who was it? 2 of the characters see another one of the characters using magic for the first time, and they just, like...
Oh, yeah.
And they just start
early in the
around
game,
the screen.
She used magic! And then he just freaks out. He's like, magic? Oh, do you remember the one part where they're chasing Kefka, and then I forgot who said it. I think it was Sabin. Kefka runs away, and Sabin yells, "Wait!" And then Kefka's like, "Wait," he says. "Do I look like a waiter?"
Yeah, and it's just like, this is the most successful villain in the franchise. Like,
yeah, because the Kefka really does come off as like you definitely don't take him seriously at first, but then like as the game kind of goes on, and it's just kind of like, oh wait, this guy's actually kind of fucked up.
Yeah, yeah, just very. It's the 6 is where the train gets suplexed.
Oh, I do know about the train suplex.
Yeah.
We saw
the train suplex. Man, oh man.
Final Fantasy Symphony or whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah. And there was this one moment where John's like hitting me, and he's like, "There's a cool moment coming up." I'm like, what is going on? And everyone just starts cheering as this train is getting suplexed on the screen. I mean, I had no idea what was going on. But the whole time I was creating an internal list of like, this game looks cool. I want to play that one.
Yeah.
And that one looks awesome. I'll play that one too. And so we've just been acting on it ever since.
Yeah.
But yeah, that train suplex, that was one where I was like, maybe I need to know more about that.
Interesting. Just like,
Oh yeah, the
fingers.
Super Nintendo trilogy of Final Fantasy games. So 4, 5, and 6 definitely worth playing.
yeah.
Heck yeah, maybe winter break. I don't know.
I don't know. We'll see. I'll be honest. I am going to be diving back into. I am an MMO pilled person, and so I will be diving back into Final Fantasy 14 because I get some time off from work around the holidays. Not a crazy amount, but enough that it will make me open my wallet for a subscription. And so I'm gonna probably no life in MMO pretty soon here. Although people heard me talk about this on our last podcast too much, but I'm also getting to the time of year. Have you ever played Breath of Fire?
I have heard of Breath of Fire. I have not played it though.
Allie is rolling her eyes at me because I take any opportunity that I get to talk about Breath of Fire, and I was like, SNES JRPGs, you say? But every winter I play at least one Breath of Fire game because there are 2 on the SNES, 2 on the PlayStation 1, and 1 on the PlayStation 2. And the 2 on the PlayStation 1 are, in reality, they're not transcendent pieces of media, but I hold them in such high regard nostalgically that I believe they're transcendent pieces of media.
Oh yeah, I totally get it. That's how I feel about Shrek 2, the video game.
Yeah.
Like at the end of the day, it's a movie game. So it's not gonna be groundbreaking, but it's definitely better than most movie games.
I have never played. What is it, like a platform? When I think movie game, immediately my mind goes to platformer.
Oh, naturally.
But like what?
It's a beat 'em up.
Is it?
What?
You can play you can play up to 4 players. And honestly, like the stage environments are pretty interesting. Even though a lot of them aren't actually from the movie.
That's so funny. What the heck?
That is, Shrek 2 is a dang good movie. It has to be said. So you know what? It deserves a good game.
I will say though, if you do plan to play Shrek 2 the video game, be ready to hear the characters cycle through the same idle dialogue lines over and over and over, kind of like Sonic Heroes.
Oh God. Okay. No.
So think like look at all those Eggman's robots, but instead it's like Donkey making like a really stupid donkey pun joke or whatever.
Just over and over and over. You know a game, actually? So, you have a video about it that people should go watch about Persona 5 Tactica. Persona 5 Tactica, I've been no-lifing that game since it came out. I personally really love it. And the one thing, though, is that in that game, Futaba says the same thing. I have like a standard party that I use in most situations. And so like the amount of times I've heard like, way to go, Fox. Like it's just egregious.
Yeah, I feel that.
Is there anything right now that we talked a little bit before we actually started recording, but is there anything you're playing right now? Anything you're watching right now?
All right, so when you asked me before we started recording, I actually didn't, like, all this stuff that I wrote down in my notes actually just completely crossed my mind. Just went over my head. There are other things that I'm playing at the moment. So I'm doing a low-level run of Persona 3 because, like, something about going back to my nerdy RPG philosophy, like, something that I really like about RPGs is, like, coming back to them learning new things about them and just sort of like because like when you play an RPG for the first time ever, you're gonna find yourself like grinding at certain points because it's just like kind of the most obvious solution in most cases.
Yeah.
But like upon repeat playthroughs, you learn things. You learn like pieces of equipment or certain mechanics that like you didn't know about before, and each subsequent playthrough you find yourself doing less and less level grinding to the point where like everything just kind of like comes naturally to you. And then like for me, the state I'm in right now with Persona 3, I've basically just gotten to the point where it's just like I'm gonna try playing Persona 3 and beating it at the lowest possible level. Like always learning something new about Persona 3. Like even when I'm not playing it, like just from watching other people play it, I'm learning stuff and I'm like, oh man, I gotta replay this game again.
Yeah.
Other things. Shin Megami Tensei 4 Apocalypse. It's all right.
Fair enough.
Moving on. Pokemon Coliseum and XD Gale of Darkness. I played a little bit of Coliseum. It has some rough edges, but Coliseum, I definitely want to finish that.
Mm-hmm.
Like it's rough, but it has character. Cause perfect is boring.
Oh yeah.
That is something that you young people are gonna learn. The young people watching this are gonna learn as they get older. Perfect is boring.
Yeah. Everything needs.
And also
a little
just
bit of
like
rough edges.
just yeah, and just like the idea behind the GameCube Pokemon games, like just like all the battles are double battles, and like the games are just notoriously known for being harder than like most other Pokemon games, and that's something that kind of appeals to me, an adult who is still playing Pokemon, but you know it's but it definitely sounds like something for me, especially after playing Shin Megami Tensei, which is known for kicking people's asses. So you know maybe Pokemon Coliseum is just the right kind of torture for me.
Yeah. Yeah. I feel that. And Pokemon is one of those franchises that they had it in, what was it, Black 2, White 2, a difficulty setting. And I wish that there was a difficulty setting in like the standard Pokemon games, because I have gotten into the habit. I love Pokemon, but you can pretty mindlessly go through the main entries now unless you impose challenges on yourself. And I would like for there to be like that kind of dial-up setting where just naturally the game fights back against you a little bit harder.
Oh yeah, that's an interesting like difficulty in Pokemon. That's an interesting topic because the way Coliseum and XD handle it is that like the only Pokemon you can catch are Shadow Pokemon.
Yeah.
Your roster's a lot more limited, but it's still very flexible, if that makes sense. Like it kind of forces you to use Pokemon that you would normally not even give as much of a second thought to.
No, definitely.
And that's kind of what I like to do with like the mainline Pokemon games too, because like when I go back to play Emerald or Fire Red, it's like, oh, what's a Pokemon I haven't used before? You know, this might actually surprise some people, but I have never used a Skarmory on my team until like a year or two ago. I was just kind of like, oh, I've never used a Skarmory. I heard Skarmory is very competitively good, but I don't care. I don't give two shits about competitive Pokemon, so I just kind of like ignored it. But then I did a playthrough of Ruby. I used Skarmory, and I'm just like, holy shit, this thing is awesome.
Yeah. That's how I feel when I use competitively good Pokemon, because I'm that person that always goes for the cute ones, and then the game's really hard. And I'm like, wow, why are Pokemon games so hard? Never mind the fact that I put an Everstone on the one I always think of right off the bat is like Lillipup.
Oh yeah, yeah.
I refused.
Oh yeah.
I kept that thing in my party for so long. It was useless. I slapped an Everstone on it right away. It was terrible. Did I play the whole game with it? You betcha.
And he was adorable.
And he was cute the whole time. And then I finally did one playthrough where I was like, no, I'm a Pokemon master and I'm going to play with competitively good Pokemon. I was like, this is boring now. Like this is how other people play. Oh,
Yeah.
This is why they get into the competitive scene, because they're like actually using good ones.
Yeah. Just like
Oh.
tearing through the gym leaders.
I'm like, this is why they want a difficulty level, because it's like too easy for
Yeah.
them. It's been hard for me. Okay.
Oh yeah, like like that it's the opposite for me cuz like most people like most young boys when they play these games they just go for like they kind of just like gravitate towards like the same like types of Pokemon. I'm not sure if you've seen the meme floating around of like the cookie cutter Sinnoh team consisting
Yes.
of like
Yeah.
Infernape, Garchomp, and like Luxray,
Luxray.
that type of thing. So that's kind of like that kind of applies to every Pokemon game. So like as I get older, I kind of just like I kind of try to sort of break away from those stereotypes, I guess you could call them. And I actively seek out Pokemon that are like kind of niche. Because like Skarmory was a bad example because Skarmory was just a good Pokemon that I never bothered using.
Yeah.
But like when I replayed something like what Heart Gold, I used a Xatu for the first time.
Yeah.
Not the greatest, but you know it's a cool design.
Yeah.
I remember using a Lantern for the first time. Like Water Electric is
I love
surprisingly good type. Like
Yeah.
it's a surprisingly good type, and despite like not having the greatest stats, it's still like I still had a fun time with it.
Hmm. One Pokemon.
So many Pokemon, like so many Pokemon, and you know you might as well try to use them.
Oh yeah, totally. One Pokemon that when I was playing Brilliant Diamond, Shining Pearl, I think I had Brilliant Diamond. I decided I was like, I've played this game a bunch before. I'll just do a Nuzlocke first time through, cause like why not? And I made it all the way to the Elite Four, and the ace on my team, better than my starter, I never would have expected it, was a Pelipper.
Oh yeah.
Yo, Pelipper.
My Pelipper, which I didn't like the look of Pelipper that much for whatever reason. I appreciate him now very much after he one-shot a Garchomp. But like, I never appreciated it, so I never used it until I did the Nuzlocke. And I'm like, this thing is my favorite Pokemon ever. It's so weirdly good.
That's how I was, funnily enough, with Jolteon when I played Gen 1. So I was very young. I didn't know that Jolteon was OP. I was a child. I
Yeah.
got an Eevee, and I went, I like electric types. I like Pikachu, and I hit it with a Thunderstone, and the rest is history. But, and I liked Jolteon. It was just really cute. And so then all of my other friends were like, but Vaporeon's the best. You're dumb. Like, whatever.
Yeah.
But I was just smoking everybody with this Jolteon. I think that's where I felt too confident about just liking the cutest Pokemon, because in my mind, Jolteon was the cutest, and I destroyed everyone with that OP Pokemon. So, you know, that's where I was. But you never would have expected it out of that little guy.
Never would have expected it.
You mentioned not being a fan of Pelipper's design. I don't blame you. Like literally, its beak is like its entire body,
Oh,
and
Oh,
also
yeah.
your Pelipper like carrying you through the game. It's actually funny because recently I've been rewatching the Pokemon Advanced anime, and there was an episode where this guy had like this very seemingly busted Pelipper that could just like sweep everything, but it turns out it was just like hiding Pokemon inside its mouth so that it could use like illegitimate moves
I
like
remember that
like
episode.
yeah, like a Pelipper, like the Pelipper was using Flamethrower and Thunderbolt and Razor Leaf, and it was just like, oh, it was actually just hiding Pokemon inside of its huge beak. Like that's a very distinct episode that like sticks in my mind to this day, and you bringing up Pelipper carrying you through the game just kind of reminded me of that.
No,
It's the
yeah.
same Pelipper, it's canon.
No, it's the exact same one. It had what's that new Pokemon? It had Tatsugiri in its mouth.
Oh, yeah, that thing.
Oh, that's so funny. Allie, are you playing anything? Are you watching anything?
Well. I'm still trying to get through my 100% playthrough of Harvest Moon 64, and it is still a slog. Because I girl bossed too hard, and I did too well in the beginning, and you have to play the game for 3 years. And, like, not 3 real years, 3 Harvest Moon years.
Yeah.
And, oh gosh, imagine it was Animal Crossing, and it was, like, real life
Oh my
days.
god.
No.
Just, like,
I would cry.
you're in it for the long haul.
Oh no. But now I see that the grass is greener on the other side, and I'm looking had Harvest Moon Back to Nature on PlayStation 1.
Oh.
I'm like, what if I did that one? And see, that one isn't as fun to 100% because there was a coding error. And so you can actually only 98% it. That's the highest it will go.
Oh, really?
Yeah, so they give you like 1% of completion for every 8 recipes that you get. And they didn't bring over like localize, I think this is the lore. They didn't localize all of the recipes, so there are some that just you can't make in the game, and so you can only make up to 8% of the total recipes. So the other ones just aren't, they just straight up aren't in the game. So I don't know, I'm thinking about it.
Don't jump ship.
I know I won't jump ship, but now I'm like, ooh, what if I played that one too? That'd be fun. And yeah, I don't know. That one's more appealing because it's on the PlayStation 5, whatever, premium store.
PlayStation Plus.
I love how I refuse to memorize anything related to PlayStation. I'm like, what do they have, that thing? The State of Play? I don't know what it's called. Like, I just refuse to learn. I don't know why.
Yeah.
But yeah, the idea of playing something with a wireless controller is just so appealing right now.
Like being tethered 2 feet away from the TV.
Not really. The N64 is not really doing it for me right now.
That's fair.
Yeah,
That's
so
fair.
that's what I'm playing. I'm not really watching anything crazy, except for we caught up on Spy Family. That's like all I can talk about is that anime.
Yeah.
But, I mean, there's nothing to talk about because every episode is a cliffhanger, so it's just like, can't wait for the next one when I have more resolution.
Oh, one of those shows.
Yeah.
No, 100% one of those shows.
Yeah. You're playing Persona 5 Tactica, John.
Yeah, I'm still there.
Yeah. One day you'll be done.
Yeah, someday. I don't know how far you've gotten, bubbletea, but I've hit one part that is... I'm nearing the end, but there's very much a slog.
I only just got to the beginning of the Second Kingdom. That was the point where I was just like, oh, I'm gonna cut it here and then just start making the video because, let's see. When I was given the code, basically the deal was like, okay, I either do a live stream or a video within the month of November. Okay. And also I wasn't allowed to spoil anything past the Second Kingdom anyway.
Okay.
So yeah, it just seemed like an appropriate place to stop.
Fair enough. Well, I think if you do continue playing, you will be pleasantly surprised by what is in store narratively. I also think that once you get where I am, you will know what I'm talking about. Immediately.
I definitely plan on finishing it at some point. But yeah, I'll finish it at some point. Like if I have any spare time, I'll pop in and out of the game.
No, yeah, totally.
I won't grind it as hard as I did for like the first couple days.
Oh yeah, totally. Because that's also with a game like that. I get very like we did this with Fire Emblem too. Like when there's like a tactical or like a strategy RPG, I just like so razor focus on it. And I just like plow through, like it's very much Fire Emblem syndrome. We plowed through Fire Emblem 3 houses and Engage far quicker than we should have.
Yeah, that was stupid fast.
And so that's where I am with this. I'm just very fixated on it. But almost there. And other than that, am I playing anything else? Not really.
No.
So, and then watching, as always, the listeners are probably sick of it. I'm on One Piece. I'm in the 400s. We're rocking it. We're rolling. We're like watching it too.
I do not. Yeah, I could never watch One Piece. I'm sure the show's not bad. It's just I don't feel like watching. How many episodes is it so far? It's like,
it's just
it's really long.
It's a nice, clean, quick, brisk 1,020 episodes.
Disgusting.
Well, in that case, easy.
Yeah,
easy.
Easy. You know what? Exactly. That's what I'm saying. It's only like a month straight of your life. I wonder how long that would be, like watching it all back to back. I'd have to do the math.
Oh my god.
But yeah, no, I've been working on it for since probably last October. And so I like take regular breaks. Cause pick it up, watch it every now and then. I get to work remote sometimes. And so sometimes I'll have it on in the background while I'm working and just as like filler noise. So that's how I'm able to kind of get through it. But I would not suggest One Piece to anyone because it is such a commitment that I don't think anyone needs to make if you haven't already committed to it.
Oh, yeah.
But now it's like the sunk cost fallacy where because I'm 400 some episodes deep, I have to finish it.
If you watched the episodes for 13 hours every day, then it would take you about 28, 29 days.
Easy.
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 29, only 29 days of my life? Oh.
Only 29 days where all I do is sleep, eat, in One Piece.
Yeah.
Wow. What a deal.
You get through it real fast.
I'll just quit my job.
I wonder if there's like some person on YouTube who actually just like watched every One Piece episode back to back straight for like X amount of time. You'd have to be a pretty big YouTuber with a sizable passive income to even have the time to do that. But that would be one for the record books. Actually, you know what? I don't know if Mr. Beast watches anime, but like he could totally pull off something like that.
So the fact that you said that, I don't know why I know this lore.
It's so funny because I was literally gonna say this.
No, you go.
Okay, it's so funny you bring up Mr. Beast because when he was first getting started, like when he was a teenager, whatever, I don't know if he was in college, he was younger, and he was doing those videos where he just counts to like some ridiculously high number.
He counts to like 100,000 in a single video. I remember seeing that. Like I was in college when he was making those videos.
Yeah, so while he was counting, he was watching Naruto. It was just an excuse for him to make content while also watching Naruto.
Oh my god. So he could totally do the same thing with One Piece. Exactly. And you know what? He would probably end up counting to like an even bigger number. Like he would probably get up to like 250,000.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's so funny. That's so funny. But yeah, is there anything else you wanted to talk about, Allie?
I don't think so. We all good.
Is there anything else you wanted to talk about, bubbletea?
No, like nothing comes to mind right now.
Awesome. So thank you so much for coming on. This was honestly so much fun.
Oh yeah. Yeah, this ended up like we ended up talking about way more than we had planned, but hey, like plans are made to be broken.
Yes.
Yeah.
So where would you like people to follow you?
In terms of places where people can follow me, I have a Twitter, but don't follow me on Twitter because Twitter sucks.
True. It's so true.
Don't make a Twitter account just to follow me. Like, don't follow me on Twitter unless you already have a Twitter account. If you don't have a Twitter account, don't make one just to follow me or other people. Like, it's not worth it. Yeah. Also, Patreon. I know every YouTuber has one, but honest to God, like, if my audience could, like, somehow by some miracle help make YouTube my full-time job, I will make it worth your while. I promise. What you're seeing now out of me is only a fraction of my power level.
Awesome. Well, definitely, if you have a Twitter, follow him on Twitter, subscribe, go check out bubbletea's Patreon, because if you're not familiar, he really does make spectacular Persona and SMT content. And so that'll do it for this week's episode of ThoughtCast, a video game podcast. So if you want to hear these podcasts a little bit early, you can check out our Patreon as well, just to make sure that you get all of that fun thought bubble ThoughtCast content a little bit early. And feel free, follow us on Twitter and join our Discord community if you want to keep the conversation going. And as always, I hope you have a fantastic rest of your day, a fantastic rest of your week, and why not even a fantastic rest of your month. And we will see you next week. Later.
See ya.